Just the short video?
Yes, sir.
Now, did it also include a text message?
It was just the video.
Okay. Embedded in that video, was there a typed message in
Just,
the video?
I see you.
And it says what?
I see you.
I see you. Do you have any other relationship with Ashton DeLoach? Is he was at that time a special interest of yours?
No, sir.
Did he like you to the best of your knowledge?
Not that I know of.
Have you ever received a Snapchat from Ashton DeLoach before that?
We really didn't talk or nothing.
State may have some questions for you.
Just a couple. Good morning, Michaela. I'm Daphne Todd. I'm the district attorney, and I was here on one prior occasion and had a chance to ask you a couple questions. When you were interviewed by Detective Craven at the police department, isn't it true that you told him that there were no altercations with you or anybody when you were at Parker's?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, is that still your testimony today? There were no altercations?
Yes, ma'am.
No problems?
Yes, ma'am.
And if there had been any problems, you would have reported that to Detective Craven when you talked to him, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, from what you just said about Ashton DeLoach, are you aware that at the time of this incident that he was living in a home with someone that's African American?
No, ma'am.
And would that change your opinion?
No, ma'am.
Would you find it strange that if you think he's a racist, that he's living with someone?
Objection, Your Honor. Cause for speculation.
Bill, I have a question. Go ahead.
Ma'am.
Your testimony was that your opinion is that Ashton DeLoach is racist. And my question to you is, if he's living with someone, if he's living in the home of someone that's an African American male, would that change your opinion? You said no.
No, ma'am. It wouldn't.
You don't find it strange that someone that's racist would live with an African American if he's racist?
It doesn't change my opinion.
All right, no more questions. Thank you.
Okay. Michaela, you were in the car with Mr. Wilson the night of the shooting.
Sir?
You were in the car when the shooting went down?
No, sir.
No, that was in Meridian.
Not with him.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
Joining me now to talk more about this is former federal prosecutor and former DOJ senior attorney Tammy Allison. Great to see you, Tammy. I want to pick your brain. First of all, let's talk about this hearing overall, a stand your ground hearing. Really, Marcus Wilson's defense putting it all on the line, trying to get his charges thrown out on the basis that he had the right to stand his ground under these circumstances. It's a little bit different from what our viewers on Court TV typically see here. If there's not a jury, a judge is the one that will decide this. The burden of proof is much less. It's a preponderance standard to prove here by the defense, not beyond a reasonable doubt. So what, in your estimation of what we've heard so far, is the likelihood that this could be successful for Marcus?
Yes, thank you for having me, Chanley. Listen, the Georgia Stand Your Ground law pretty much says that the individual has to reasonably believe that they were facing an imminent fear of bodily injury or death. And the defense attorney, Francis, he's doing a wonderful job with this, so to speak, mini trial, right? Where the burden of proof is preponderance of evidence. And that's different than what we see in typical criminal trials. This is a motion before the court where the defense attorney is trying to say that these charges are null and void. They shouldn't be coming forward because the defendant here was acting in self-defense. And from the testimony that we've heard today, especially from one of the witnesses that was in the car, the Snapchat message that she did receive, it does appear that there was a racial undertone, which helps the defense to meet that burden of proof of the preponderance of evidence that shows that this defendant reasonably believed that he was at risk of imminent danger in the form of his life being in danger. So that's why he shot into the car where there was those 5 people in there. And this victim, unfortunately, who was sitting in the backseat in the middle, as we know, was 17 years old and unfortunately died. So if this hearing goes the way that the defense attorney wants it to go, then these charges would probably be dismissed and there would not be the need for a trial for the death of this young 17-year-old lady.
And beautiful Haley Hutchinson right there. We see her on the screen, unfortunately passed away, a tragedy, really. And we were watching some of Marcus Wilson. He looks like he shaved his head today, Tammy. That's different from yesterday in the hearing. But you brought up the Snapchat message that Michaela talked about. Well, Ashton Deloach, he was the passenger in the front seat of that truck with the other kids. He testified yesterday and he addressed that Snapchat issue. Let's watch.
We passed a car and we really ain't paying no attention to it. Like I said, we was going home, so we didn't think nothing about it. And then we get past the Toyota place and stuff right there, and not far past it, I don't think. I guess he catches back up to us, and then that's whenever we hear gunfire, and then that's kind of whenever I saw looked like flashes. And I don't know if it was just how low the car was sitting, is where I saw the gun flashes going to, or if he was shooting at the ground or what. But it sounded like 3 shots, and then that's whenever we told Mason to go. And then he guns it again, and we're going. And then me and Luke, we kind of turn around and look back, stick our heads out the window, and that's whenever we thought it was the girls that we saw at Parker's. But it ended up not being them. And then we keep going, and then that's whenever we see another that's whenever we start hearing more shots.
When you say you think you see the girls you saw at Parker's, is that in the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
That Mark Wilson is driving? You thought you saw those 2 girls?
Yes, sir.
And who did you think you saw specifically, since you recognized those girls?
I think we thought it was Allison and Michaela.
There was only one girl in the car there, right?
Yes, sir.
So which one was it?
I don't know. That's just what we really didn't have no clear view in the vehicle. That's who we thought we saw.
All right, so he's taking this judge back to the scene, what he was able to recall and not recall, Tammy. But he does say that, yes, he did snap this Michaela at the Parker's gas station. And then when they see the vehicle, the Ford Focus Marcus Wilson is in that night later, they think it's Michaela and her friend in that car that they're seeing again. What do you think of this testimony? I'm just glued to watching this because it's really 2 different narratives. We have the group of kids in that trunk telling one story, and then we have Marcus, the defendant, and his girlfriend telling another story. It's really going to come down to credibility, Tammy.
Absolutely. It comes down to credibility, and it also comes down to the consistency with what was in the police report, what is being testified to, any discrepancies, and any good defense attorney will be good to call out any one of those discrepancies. But we have to be clear, this is a truck full of 5 white men and women, young men and women, and another car where this defendant was in with his girlfriend. So when we're considering all of the facts that we're discussing here with this mini hearing to see if the stand your ground law can be used for him so that he's not being charged with this, we have to consider the fact that why would he just randomly shoot into a car full of teenagers when he's with his girlfriend? Hearing testimony about where he and his girlfriend were going, what they were doing, is relevant because it all ties back together as to why would he just randomly shoot into a car without being provoked if in fact they were not going after him and he reasonably believed that he was in danger for not only his life but also the life of his girlfriend.
Tammy, would you put him on the stand for this immunity hearing?
I never think that a defendant should take the stand, even for an immunity hearing, because once again, anything he says can be opened up for a cross-examination, not only for this immunity hearing, but let's say it doesn't go the way that the defense attorney wants, but then it goes on to a trial, and that beyond a reasonable doubt burden of proof that the prosecutors have to prove if it does go to a criminal hearing. Anything he says on the stand as a defendant is open game for them to attack. So I would not recommend that.
Absolutely, Tammy, I agree with you. Stick with me. We're going to squeeze in a break. Up next, we stay in Georgia for this Stand Your Ground trial. The defendant's girlfriend, like Tammy said, takes the stand, and she was there when this deadly shooting happened, and it's our testimony of the day. And then later, our Talk Back segment, former 90 Day Fiancé star Jeffrey Paschal is asking for a new trial after he was convicted of brutally attacking his ex-girlfriend. Do you think that motion should be granted. Let us know what you think, and we will share some of your comments later in the show. Stay with us.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, we'll break down today's verdict in the Breonna Taylor botched raid trial. What led this jury to acquit Brett Hankinson of wanton endangerment? Plus, a hearing in the case against William Marcus Wilson continues in Georgia. Our experts weigh in on key takeaways from today's proceedings and their impact on his stand your ground defense.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
At Denny's, we're open for anything, like our new ooey gooey, seriously sweet chocolate chip cookie dough pancakes. Social stars influenced.
This dough is money.
And perfect for the fam. Get that cookie dough pancakes only at Denny's.
Ordinary cat litter stinks. It's dusty, heavy, and downright gross. Martha Stewart, what do you think?
Well, my cats use Pretty Litter. It's the only Martha-approved cat litter because it traps odors, it's lightweight, and Pretty Litter changes color to indicate potential illness, helping.
Is this the vehicle that you were in on that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as D13. Is this the truck that was beside you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you indicated that you were scared, you didn't know what was going to happen. And you indicated you and Mark were having some conversation, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did Mark ever communicate with these people?
Yes, ma'am. I believe he was just kind of like rolled down the window, was like, hey, chill, stop. And they're like, we don't want any problems. We just wanted to go get Taco Bell and go home.
Okay. And did they stop?
Yeah.
What happened?
I believe, if I remember correctly, that's when Mark shot to kind of say, hey, stop. They slowed down. They came right back up beside us. And then we heard a loud noise. We didn't know what it was.
You heard a loud noise. Where?
It sounded like they may have thrown something and hit the vehicle. I don't know what they threw. I don't know if there was anything. I don't know. And then that's when Mark shot again, when they came back up on us.
Okay. All right. So they came right back up on you. Did you at any point think maybe they had hit you with their truck?
I didn't know. I felt like if they would have hit us with the truck, then we would have went off in the ditch. I did feel like they may have thrown something or something hit the vehicle.
Could it have been a gunshot?
No.
Don't hurt the witnesses now.
Right. So you indicated you don't know what it was. You heard a loud.
Just a noise. We heard a loud noise that sounded like something hit the vehicle.
Okay. All right. And what happened next?
And then that's when Mark shot when they came back on us. And then after that, we were at the red light with the two in-markets in the BB&T bank. And then they kind of rolled the red light. And then we were going to go to my house or my apartment, but Mark didn't want them to follow us because we thought they may be coming after us. And so we went to James's house.
And what was your state of mind during all of this?
I didn't really, I don't know. There was so much going on, and it's like, what do you do in that situation? It was scary because I didn't know these people. I didn't know if they were gonna run us off the road actually.
And did they swerve towards your vehicle more than once?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you at any point, I know you said several times you were afraid, did you think that you were going to be hurt?
I feel like I could have, yes, ma'am, if it would have gotten that.
And did you think the truck was going to follow you?
Once they rolled the red light and then stopped immediately after, I thought there might be a possibility, yes, ma'am.
Still with me is federal former prosecutor and former DOJ senior attorney Tammy Allison. Tammy, that was key testimony for the defendant. This is his passenger who was in the vehicle with him when they allege that this truck full of teenagers starts yelling racial epithets and throwing beer cans and hanging out of the window and trying to run them off the road. How powerful do you think her testimony came across, of what you watched at least?
I think her testimony was very powerful. I think not only the way that she testified, and she was very specific in her reasonable belief of fear that they were going to run them off of the road, but also visually, I think her testimony was very strong. This is a car full of 5 white teenagers in a truck that are chasing this defendant down with who was a black defendant, with his white girlfriend in the car. So it kind of makes it more believable, but that they're, screaming these racial slurs towards him and chasing them down, and the Snapchat messages coupled with the testimony. It all seems very strong in terms of this defendant getting immunity in the form of the Georgia Stand Your Ground law.
Let's take a listen to some of the cross and what the prosecution brought out and see, and get your thoughts on the other side.
You didn't ask Mark to pull a gun and start shooting, did you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. In fact, when Mark pulled his gun, you told law enforcement that you told him not to shoot.
I don't know if I recall saying that. I remember saying no. I was scared. It's a very scary situation. But I don't recall saying don't shoot.
Him pulling a gun made you scared and fear for your life, correct?
No, I was already scared. I have someone swerving into my lane.
You've never testified or told law enforcement or anyone that you saw anybody in the truck with a gun, did you?
No.
The only person who saw with a gun that night was Mark.
I didn't know if they had a gun or not. They were hanging out the truck. It was dark.
You testified earlier, you said that they were throwing their hands. Did you ever tell your family or CRC that they were making racial hand gestures?
I don't recall saying exactly that either.
Okay. All right. And your testimony right now is that you don't remember telling Mark not to shoot his gun.
If you have something that says otherwise, I would love to read it.
The prosecutor also asked about the racial slurs. She said she didn't remember hearing that, but Marcus told her that they were yelled at them in the car. She was also asked on cross, Tammy, about a former statement. She had previously said that her boyfriend, Marcus, was asking about whether or not she had dated the guys in that truck, which makes me sort of think maybe that's what the prosecutor is trying to use as motive for this defendant, to want to be the aggressor. Maybe why they brought charges. Maybe it's a window insight. What did you make of that cross and the things that were brought out?
I thought the cross by the prosecution was extremely harsh given this defendant. Her demeanor is very calm. Her credibility seems super strong. So it kind of just makes the prosecution look silly to go after her that way, because the way that she even answered the questions that the prosecutor was asking her was very strong. She was very consistent. She remained calm. She did not have any obvious emotional response to the harshness of the questions that the prosecutor was asking. She actually answered those questions like a perfect witness, describing how it was dark outside. There's no way for her to know for sure what was going on. But what she did know is that she reasonably believed that they were in danger. She also testified that if, in fact, she made any contradictory statements, she would love to see it. And we all know that if, in fact, a prosecutor or even a defendant is asking a witness a question and they're saying they don't remember or don't recall, that prosecutor should have been ready with that statement to be like, well, let me refresh your memory and slap that piece of paper down for her. And the prosecutor did not do that. So that's a win for the defendant.
Yeah, great points, Tammy Allison. Thank you so much for all of that. Still to come, 90 Day Fiancé star Jeffrey Paschal. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison after a brutal attack on his ex-girlfriend. Well, at sentencing, he begged the judge for leniency.
I ask that you have mercy on me. You have mercy on my family, my kids, and show me leniency in the sentencing.
But now he's asking for a new trial because of how long he's been sent to prison. We'll explain all of that in his request coming up next.
Here's to hard workers, the holding down two jobbers, the making the paycheck stretchers. Here's to the bad to fair credit scores, and those bills were just a little bit laters. At Good to Go, we see you. We know you have the drive, you just can't afford to drive. Good to Go is here to give you auto insurance when others won't. For as little as $20 down and low monthly payments, Good to Go makes it easy to get approved, insured, and back on the road fast. Get the coverage you need, instant proof of insurance, and be on your way. We know you're going places. Let us help you get there. When others say no, we say you're good to go. Visit goodtogo.com.
Meet Function of Beauty, shampoo made to order just for you. Yes, you. Function of Beauty is the world's first custom hair care brand. Here's how it works. Take the quiz, choose your hair goals, pick your scent and your color, or keep it simple. You name it, literally. Then our team of hair-obsessed chemists will create your custom formulas with clean ingredients that work for your hair. Get 20% off your first custom formula at functionofbeauty.com.
You rip and tear your old statements and bills.
10 years in prison. Paschal was convicted of aggravated kidnapping, domestic violence, and interfering with an emergency call in October of last year. Here's a refresher on his case.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Jeffrey Ian Paschal, guilty of aggravated kidnapping.
Once a reality TV star, Jeffrey Paschal is now a convicted criminal. He was found guilty of attacking his girlfriend, Kristen Wilson, at her Knoxville, Tennessee home in 2019.
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Paschal took the witness stand at his trial and downplayed their confrontation.
But the incident occurred at the house based on her jealousy. Ever since then, it's morphed and it's made its own way to different things.
Before he made news as a defendant, he was featured on the show 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days, where fans once tuned in to follow the budding romance between Paschal and his Russian girlfriend, Varia Molina.
I don't want to die.
Paschal's popularity plummeted once fans learned of the charges, and he was promptly dropped from the season finale, while publicly vowing to fight the allegations.
This is all just a ploy. This is all just an agenda to try to make me lose custody of my child.
But the jury didn't buy it, and Paschal was convicted of aggravated kidnapping, domestic assault, and interfering with an emergency call after his victim gave powerful testimony against him.
The next thing I remember, I was on the floor in front of my staircase that leads to the upstairs, and he had me by the back of my head and was hitting my face into the floor, and I was screaming for him to stop.
Police said Wilson displayed symptoms of a concussion, and she was taken to the hospital for treatment. Responding Knox County Sheriff's Officer Matt Johnson took the stand.
She had a large pump knot, approximately the size of a baseball, on her forehead.
Paschal claimed the injuries were self-inflicted, a notion Assistant District Attorney Heather Good refuted.
You can rest comfortably knowing that these were not self-inflicted wounds. These are not injuries caused by somebody falling into a wall or a door frame or a bush.
Paschal said he rejected a plea deal and chose to stand trial to prove his innocence.
They offered me no punishment whatsoever just to have it on my record. I said no, absolutely not.
Now Paschal's defense team is arguing that his 18-year sentence is excessive. His defense is also arguing Paschal's due process rights were violated when the judge let Paschal's ex-wife, Allison Moon, testify without adequate notice. Take a listen to some of her dramatic testimony during Paschal's sentencing hearing.
Can you tell us about the first time that there was physical abuse?
Yes, 4 months after we were married, we were having a conversation, and it was not long into our marriage, I began to question his fidelity and whether he was maintaining loyalty and being honest with me about things. And so when I brought it to his attention, he would often get defensive and start to make me think that what I was saying was wrong, or that I was crazy for thinking so. And the first time I had said something, and it just immediately snapped, like no warning, he jumped on me and held me to the ground, but had his hand over my mouth, just squeezing it, like, hey, stop talking, basically. And after that first time, he was extremely apologetic and promised it would never happen again, and you know, wanted this marriage to work out. And I believed him. After that, though, there were many instances of increasingly more violent things that he did to me, such as strangling me, holding me on the ground and strangling me, and dragging me by my hair, backhanding me in the face. He's elbowed me in the back, and each time he would be threatening me and I didn't believe I could do anything about it.
A hearing is scheduled for April the 14th in this matter. Still with me is former federal prosecutor and former DOJ senior attorney Tammy Allison. Tammy, got to get your thoughts on this case, this motion, and I just have to be transparent. I don't like this guy at all, but I want to know what you think about the grounds that he is alleging in this motion for a new trial. Do they carry any weight?
You know, it always carries weight, especially if there are procedural flaws in the trial. So yes, I understand a lot of people don't like him. And, you know, I was on with Michael when we first covered this story a couple of months ago. And, you know, I discussed with Michael how I watched 90 Day Fiance. And, you know, Mr. Paschal was very open and honest on that show about his prior convictions, but he only really talked about the drug trafficking conviction. So having these witnesses discuss the domestic violence that they experienced, if in fact his attorneys were not given adequate notice that his ex-wife was going to testify in that way, he does have a constitutional right to confront individuals that are making claims against him, so that could be a violation of his due process rights. So I always tell people, as a federal executive clemency expert, that exhausting all of the remedies before the judiciary is what you want to do before applying for clemency. And in this situation, 18 years for this type of charge, it does kind of seem a little excessive, honestly. But when you take into consideration that he does have prior convictions, that's probably what the judge is basing this sentence off of. But the fact that there's no possibility of parole as well, his attorneys are doing what they're supposed to do. A good defense attorney is going to appeal a sentence post-conviction, and they're going to find procedural flaws, which is the best way to do it, because here he took the stand in his own defense, so they can't really talk about anything substantive. So procedural flaws, including a violation of his due process rights, is what a good defense attorney would do.
Right, it makes sense. And I do remember your exchange with Michael. You were a super fan of 90 Day Fiance. I forgot about that. I have not watched the show, so, but I have kept up with this. And you brought up the due process violation. That's a great ground. In fact, let's take a listen to that sentencing when his defense team did make that objection for the record.
Sentencing. Under the 5th and 14th Amendments, we're saying he would be denied substantive and procedural due process. In what way? We have no time to investigate the conduct since we received it last evening at approximately 9:15.
Well, of course, those amendments, as written 200 and something years ago, don't say anything about providing witness statements prior to a sentencing hearing. So certainly, if there was authority that existed that required this sort of pre-hearing disclosure by the state, there must be federal jurisprudence, state jurisprudence, somewhere saying this is what the 5th Amendment means, or this is what the 14th Amendment means.
Well, I don't think, to quote Justice Potter Stewart, I can't define obscenity or pornography, but I know it when I see it. I know what a fair trial and due process, whether it's procedural or substantive, is. And basically, it's very simple. A due process analysis under the 5th and 14th Amendment in state and federal jurisprudence basically means that a defendant, a citizen accused, has the right to fundamental fairness. And the fundamental fairness is when you are looking at your liberty and at 9:30 at night, you get conduct that spans 15 years, and the only meaningful challenge I can make is to cross-examine someone on this statement I think he is not given due process. There's a plethora of decisions in a variety of contexts and criminal jurisprudence that there is a requirement for fundamental fairness.
Sure, there's a requirement for fundamental fairness, but again, we've been doing this for over 200 years. I can't imagine if there was authority that compels the state to give this pre-hearing disclosure of a statement of this nature that would actually go above and beyond what the rules of criminal procedure would require at a trial. There would be authority. There would be a decision saying that.
So we would respectfully ask the court to exclude the evidence or conversely give us a reasonable time to represent 15 years worth of domestic issues that this witness is apparently going to testify about and the state is going to use to seek enhanced punishment.
So, Tammy, the defense saying with the late notice the night before the ex-wife taking the stand for sentencing, they didn't have time to investigate and rebut the veracity of her allegations and her story, and that was a violation. And clearly, the judge didn't agree then. What's the likelihood of it now?
Listen, this is a state court trial judge, and we heard the judge rebut the defense attorney's very clear arguments. What the defense attorney did was very strategic and good. Oh my gosh, it was so good because what he did was he preserved the record for appeal. He also preserved the record for post-conviction and post-sentencing motions. So because he has a successive 18-year sentence, and he already had tried to bring it up to the judge, and the judge wasn't trying to hear it, right? Now they can go back to the transcript and be like, see, I told you. Now here is all the case law on the state level and a federal level that backs up what I was saying. He doesn't have to spit it out right then and there. So the judge, assuming that there's no authority when it's pretty simple, he has the right to confront a witness that's testifying with these types of accusations. And it's even worse because he only got notice of it past business hours the day before she testified. That's a very strong argument from the defense attorney. I know a lot of people don't like this guy, but that's why I be telling people, y'all got to focus on these procedural things.
Well, now that we know what you think, Tammy, we want to know what our viewers think. Should Jeffrey Paschal get a new trial, a new sentence, we will read some of those comments they've been posting online to our social media pages. We're going to read those comments and questions up next in our Talk Back segment. Don't go anywhere.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, we'll break down today's verdict in the Breonna Taylor botched raid trial. What led this jury to acquit Brett Hankinson of wanton endangerment? Plus, a hearing in the case against William Marcus Wilson continues in Georgia. Our experts weigh in on key takeaways from today's proceedings and their impact on his stand your ground defense.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
This is exactly why we chose leaf filter.
Before leaf filter, our gutters would get so clogged.
Tree limbs, bird nests.
Our house is 2 stories tall. Getting up to these gutters is very dangerous.
We always hired somebody to clean these, and that was very expensive.
Leaf filter was a lifesaver.
When the salesman came over and showed us how they work, gave us interest-free financing, and the price was right, it was a no-brainer.
The leaf filter installation process was so simple and easy.
They got our entire 4,000 square foot house all fitted out and installed in less than a day.
Like, he's definitely guilty, girl. And as a survivor of domestic violence, I don't like him either, and I don't like what he did. But at the same time, the motion seems pretty solid, so it might get granted.
It might be. Okay, let's take another look at a comment. This one from Linda. She says he must be kicking himself for not taking the plea deal, which, if I remember correctly, he would have had 0 jail time. And that is right. I think he was offered just probation before this, and he wanted to prove his innocence, Tammy.
Listen, Linda. Linda. She right. I know he's kicking himself in the butt because, that plea deal was good. But listen, we're here now.
Exactly, especially considering now 18 years for what he did. Let's go to another comment. Our last one comes from Karen. She says, quote, no, just a new haircut. Oh, I kind of agree with you there, Cam. There was a big difference from the trial and his haircut to what we were seeing there. Sentencing, maybe they don't have scissors in county jail? I don't know, Tammy, but definitely a transformation in his look. Yeah.
He might be pulling a Tammy, he wants to switch it up for a little razzle-dazzle,
Exactly. He's going to need to razzle-dazzle this judge for sure, who really didn't see him on his side. I mean, the judge was very harsh. He even said he was sadistic in his behaviors and what he had to listen to evidence come in, and he really did go hard on him for this sentence. The maximum, though, Tammy, would have been 20 years instead of 18. So we shall see. Again, that hearing April 14th. Thank you, Tammy, for being with me this evening so much. We really enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll see you on soon. Again, I'm Chanley Painter, and of course it's been a pleasure being with you. Don't go anywhere though, because up next, my favorite lead anchor, Vinnie Politan, in Closing Arguments. They're going to take a look at a case where a TikTok star was arrested for some serious crimes, and get this, his shoes are what led police to him. Stay with us. You're watching Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Attention women, if you or a loved one used talcum powder for at least 4 years and were then diagnosed with advanced stages of ovarian cancer or metastatic ovarian cancer before the age of 75, listen closely. You may be entitled to substantial compensation. Time is limited to file a claim, and we will have to pull your medical records. You must have been diagnosed with ovarian cancer within the last 10 years, so call now to see if you qualify. You need an attorney on your side fighting for your rights. One of the leading manufacturers of talcum powder has been ordered to pay millions of dollars in claims to the families of women who died of ovarian cancer. A jury found the company knew their talc products could cause cancer and failed to warn consumers of the dangers. If you or a loved one used talcum powder for at least 4 years and were diagnosed with advanced stages of ovarian cancer or metastatic ovarian cancer that moved to other organs within the last 10 years, don't wait. Call right now.
That should hold it for now.